a hurry. And also, we receive a report that people in Lagos, in parts of Yoruba land, they rejected this vaccination. But they say there is order from above that they must start distributing it in southeast. Let me use that word, southeast. From Monday, 27th, going to schools, churches, everywhere. They have come again. Common sense now should go why. Nigeria, so something good, free of charge. Nigeria will bring it to us. This is just common sense. Something good. Oh, something very beneficial. Now they will target our land. Oh, Igbo Soya, no, come and take it. Biafrans, Soya is you number one. What about if it is a vaccination that is untested? What about it is the after effects? Did they know? What about if it is part of brigade program? People here on Radio Biafra, we raise your common sense part of your brain. That part of your brain that deals on common sense. From tomorrow, they will be going from school to school. There are many sicknesses, different sicknesses, they don't care. But this one is vaccination from 9 years to 14 years against cervical cancer in our female mostly. So, we hear how we turn our labor. Whereas, look at the trend they give us from our battle. Look at the lack of development. Look at everything. Now they want to say they love us, to inject us, give us a vaccine. We should never trust Nigerian government and their agents in our land. They can promote. The doctor said the worry he has is he tried to pose question. They said no, it's order from above. You have to do it in southeast. Now, how this type of thing could be. So if you are hearing my voice, you know no na Biafra land. Boya, tell him or her about the vaccination, the danger. Our coming generation. Beacon. We are hated. Brigade is there. Anything that happens, even if they want to test the drug, they will bring it to our land. They say, and once they meet the governors, the governors are at the mercy of the Fulani Caliphate. So they don't have any say. We don't have political representatives. For your information, I will not continue talking, please. Kai Mecha, this 30th May. Remember, I Mecha the 30th May now. The fire will continue. Because we need to educate our people, honestly. We need to educate our people. People are perishing because of ignorance, lack of knowledge. It is that knowledge that we are trying to impact. Started by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. What you hear here on Radio Biafra, you cannot hear it any other place, any other mainstream media. It's impossible. Therefore, we must continue. Do not forget that on Tuesday, Mazi Sanwo will be coming on air. I'll be hosting him here on Radio Biafra on Tuesday, being the 28th, by 7:30 p.m. BT. Also on the 30th, which will be on Thursday, it is our remembrance, our heroes and heroines remembrance day. And in that case, Mazi Chika Edoziem also, the man in charge, because in the temporary absence of our leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the DOS headed by Mazi Chika Edoziem is in charge. Whether you like it or not, you deal with it. Is the reality. Mazi Chika Edoziem is in charge. That is it. You have no option. That is it. So, Mazi Chika Edoziem, the head of the directorate of the head of the directorate of the indigenous people of Biafra, will be coming on air to address Biafrans on Thursday by 7:30 p.m. Do not miss these programs, please. Therefore, without taking any much time, because today Dr. Ukachi, he will speak less, and lines, I will open the line so that people will come in mostly to ask questions, mostly about the history, which he started since last week. Ntebokwananka, Ntebonka. You listen and hear, and anything you hear, you try to make more researches in order to know it. Because listening to it does not make you know it. When you make your researches, now you confirm the knowledge of it, and knowledge is added, and ignorance will be removed. Therefore, without taking any much time, as I said, I will bring in Dr. Justice Ukachi Lois in order to continue. Mazi, can you hear me, please? Welcome to the program.
Yes, good evening, Mazi Jonathan, and good evening, all listeners. It's a pleasure to come back, not because we enjoy what has happened to us as a people and history, but an opportunity using this hallowed platform to share the knowledge that is available out there, and of course from eyewitnesses and survivors of the genocide that's happened to our people. We mustn't misconstrue it or think that your enemy has stopped attacking you. So, but you have to understand the historicity, the background to our suffering. So today, rather than continuing and talking about the actual war, which is the next step, because I structured the lectures or the talks in about 5 ways, so that we'll be able to use today to discuss and raise anyone's question, which we can answer as interactively as possible. We based the talks on the January 15th coup, then the 29th July coup, then the pogrom itself, then the Aburi Accord, and after the Aburi Accord, the declaration of Biafra as a sovereign state. And today, as you know what would happen, after Biafra was declared, the Nigerians decided to invade Biafra. They fired the first shot to try and push people they kicked out of the Federation to bring them back in. So Nigeria, as a result, as a land, was soaked in blood, and is still being soaked in blood. And we need to take a pause then today to field some questions. So be brief in your questions, and I try and answer as many of them as possible, because the actual topic on the war itself, we're going to somehow introduce them, at a oblique rather than individual battlefield. So because there's a lot that went down during the war, but the major causes that led to it is what we discussed so far. So I'm grateful to anyone who's been listening, but it's not enough to listen, you have to share it with other people, and also, as Mazi Jonathan said, read up about it and confirm or confute anything I've been saying on the radio, and feel free to ask questions so that we can try and clarify any area. If I haven't got the answer, I will tell you bluntly, I do not have this answer. But if I do, I'll make it available on Radio Biafra so people would get access to it. But more importantly, we are trying to publish Bead magazine or some sort of booklet which will house most of this information so people have access to them going forward. And it's been hard work, and also it's possible to have a website on Bead where we're going to put all this information and then people can access them, which I feel is very, very important. Today's topic was supposed to be titled Nigeria Biafran War. I didn't call it Civil War. There's nothing civil about it. In fact, civil war is an oxymoronic term. You can have a war that is civil, but that's another matter. So, but in the Nigerian Biafran war, there's what I call genocide Nigeriana. It's Nigeriana in the sense that is specifically the way Nigeria went about their own form of genocide, which is unique on planet Earth. It appears to be the longest running genocide because the people who have been exposed to genocide are still suffering genocide. So we need to tackle that particular topic on another day. So genocide Nigeriana should be something we should look into. But without further ado, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be accepted in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. So Mazi Jonathan, I'm happy to take some messages now. If you want me to define genocide, I can do that so everybody have an idea what we're talking about. It's not about just having a riot in the market and killing one or two people. This is a planned extermination of the people that is still going on in the full glaze of all those who are supposed to prevent it. There's a genocide convention preventing genocide. And yet, Biafrans seem to be afflicted by it, and it's been the longest running genocide so far. So I'm happy to take some questions, and we'll plow on. Thank you very much, Mazi Jonathan.
There, Mazi. Before let me start. Before I open the lines, let me start by asking you, what is your take? Let me open, the statement by asking you, what is your take on, last few days, Wolo Soyinka said something that struck me. He said that he was surprised that this Biafra agitation just started, can I say, late. That all these years, we nothing like Biafra until recently. Because to fairness to, he talked many other things anyway about our leaders kidnapping that is illegal. But fairness to Wolo Soyinka, because we must say it as it is. Wolo Soyinka was in jail during the Biafra war, I think so. And when he visited Biafra land and saw the massive genocide that is going on, he went back to Lagos and started talking about it. But he was jailed by Gowon until the war ended. I think, Mazi, I think I'm right. So, what is your take about our, is it been, although it's better to be late than never, but my question sometimes is this: why did our people trust so much on one Nigeria going back and back now let us forget the past, which is not possible. We shouldn't forget the past and embrace one Nigeria, and as if the war was fought haphazardly. We are waiting for pronouncement to be made so that we go back, because in the history of civil wars or cases like this, I never see a people that were killed like this and all of a sudden they stop and nothing was going on behind the scenes. Nothing, absolutely nothing. The people went back thinking that everything is okay. I never see it in any part of the world. If any person has seen it, he should speak. But I personally have been trying to inquire, research about other places. It never happened. In our own case, we just forget let's bury the hatchet. Now, one Nigeria, we continue having trust. So it goes with the statement of Wolo Soyinka. Why did it take so much time for this to start happening again? Knowing fully well that the war never ended. Abaribe said it in an interview that we thought that the war ended in 1970. It's there on YouTube. His interview with Rudolph Okonkwo. He said, for them, the other people, he said the war never ended. We are mistaken that the war ended. So why is it so? Is it out of ignorance or weakness of mentality or anything that made us to and now we embrace everything, anything they talk, we trust, say, okay. We have no other inside plan, no secret plan, nothing. Mazi, please, if you can say something there before I start taking calls, please go on.
Thank you very much. There's a lot to talk on that. Why did we take so long? Well, that's a very good question. First of all, Wale Soyinka was one of these, he spoke his mind because he must have understood what happened to the Eastern Nigerian people before the war started. He was so keen to avoid the shooting war. So he went to the East to meet with the Ojukwu and so on. And after talking to him, when he returned back to Lagos, to West, Gowon arrested him because they didn't want him to speak the truth. And in fact, what did they say about the truth? They say truth is the first casualty of any war. So he was arrested, locked up, and there was international outcry, this famous writer, and he was only released a few months before the war ended. So he spent the best part of the war years in prison, where he wrote the man died. So it's, on the one hand, we need to respect the man because it wasn't, he didn't mince word. He told them you cannot defeat Biafra, and he meant the spirit which guided Biafra, you cannot destroy it. And Ojukwu himself said nothing can crush the spirit of a determined people. That's Ojukwu's quote. So you can beat them physically, you can shed their blood, but their spirit you cannot destroy. And the thing he's saying, they misunderstood that. You can win the battle, but and you can even win the war. But Nigeria proceeded to lose the peace, which is where we need to look at what happened to our people. When the war was ending, people thought Nigeria should really consider how they need to protect those of the Biafran stock. And they anticipated that even if you defeated Biafra militarily, there will be a guerrilla warfare. Okay, they're convinced that this was going to happen. Biafrans would carry on fighting. So there's no point continuing the war because they have made the point. So everyone anticipated Biafrans would continue guerrilla fighting. I have my own views why that didn't happen. So what I also don't want to do is to get bogged down in this particular topic. Ojukwu himself, when asked in that famous interview after the war in September 1970 with Frederick Forsyth, he said the ball is now in the Nigerian court. Most people remember that quote. The ball is now in the Nigerian court. It's like you're playing tennis. Yeah, they have served it, and we played it. Now they served it. We've sent it back to them. It now depends on how they play it back. If they play it back calmly, then that's fine. If they play back viciously, then there's a chance that people reconsider this where we are. So it's just a warning shot. And that interview didn't go down so well with his host, the president of Ivory Coast, because Ojukwu had to be careful what he says, because he's taking an asylum there without aggrieving Nigeria so much. So, but Ojukwu was careful what he said, but the most he can say from his thought, his mind, is that now in the Nigerian court. Now, how did Nigeria go about to play a rotten shot back? They treated us not as no victor, no vanquish. Brothers at war. People tried to make it look such a civil war, misunderstanding among brothers, and so on and so forth. But the first thing they did, immediately Biafra surrendered. For 2 weeks, nobody was allowed to visit the enclave, what they call the enclave, where Biafrans were. no journalists. They just packed them in Lagos. If you're going to go to the east, you have to come to Lagos, and they camped journalists there, so nobody could be wandering around the Biafran land to see what was going on. So for 2 solid weeks, they weren't allowed into Biafra land. And so all this, they were doing, if you like, airbrushing, cleansing the land, so that nobody coming outside would see the actual massacres that was going on. A place called Njaba Bridge. Njaba was a town near Owerri where they went in there after the war has finished and massacred so many people. And no one can witness it. I, as a young lad who returned back to their village after the war, on my field where we played, my primary school where we played on the field, there was littered of bodies throughout the whole field. Young Biafran soldiers. I can tell they're young soldiers because you're not wearing Biafran uniform, some are also their own clothing or whatever. It's like people suddenly laying down flat across the actual field, literally wiped out. Okay, so if that was the case, and they were fighting the opposing Nigerians, why were they all lying in the field? So there was lots of massacre that went down immediately after the war. Those who are caught behind the Nigerian rapid advance. So there's a lot of pocket atrocities that occurred. The next thing to say is that while that was happening, Gowon said anyone who mentioned the word Biafra is doing a disservice to Nigeria. It goes with airbrush and completely remove the word Biafra. So our people can only whisper it in their sitting room. They don't live in their living room. They don't even know who is listening. And if they find you being a Biafran activist, you'll be killed. And there's nobody on the planet who's going to defend you. So why is it taking so long to come through? There's lots of reasons. They removed the name Bight of Biafra, which was at the beginning of the war, the coastal region. They changed it. So you don't hear, there's nowhere you can hear the word Biafra. When before Nnamdi came on, if you try to type Biafra, the Google was looking, but now just type BI and then Biafra comes up. So that means the name Biafra was forgotten. Okay, so now, why did it take 50 years? Because if you survive the war and you know the deprivations, people don't want to talk about it. The actual suffering that people went through. Not only did they suffer during the war, the food was a critical thing. When the war ended, Uli Airport, where Biafrans received the airline, all the planes rather, that dropped in the food and all the supplies, rather than open it up, because Biafrans used it during night time, when the airplane carrying foodstuff, rice and stockfish and so on, when it arrived, the Biafrans unpacked it so rapidly to allow the next plane to land. So it was a very efficiently run airfield, which was feeding millions of Biafrans. Now, from the Udi airport to where San Tome, just a little island down the coast, it was the shortest run, and the island was bulging with supplies for Biafrans. So Nigeria could have opened with the airport or any other airport in the Biafra land then, Enugu, Calabar, Port Harcourt. All these places had airport, Warri even. So I'm not saying that Warri was part of Biafra, but it's close by. They could have opened all these airports and then allow all this food to be poured in day and night. Remember Biafra receiving these planes at night only. But now if you open it up and there's lots of food there, you can be flying them in and out without any disruption whatsoever. The Americans send this huge jumbo Hercules to go to Lagos. The American army had U.S. Air Force. Nigeria said, no, you can't have U.S. Air Force coming into our land. And they were arguing that Americans bringing planes to help transfer all this food to the Biafran land. But the Americans say it's an Air Force, it's a U.S. Air Force logo. We can't suddenly remove it. So they denied the Americans for getting involved in the airlift. So what I'm saying is to you as a child who remembered having to queue up after the war to get food supply. So they denied us food, which was actually in an island next door. So instead, they said all food which has been given or donated to Biafra has to go through Lagos. So they arrived in Apapa. Remember, River Niger, the bridge over was blown up during the war. So a ferry could only move across from Asaba to Onitsha, and about 4 of them in one day. They have to send jeep, Land Rovers to carry these and army trucks to then start going to, Biafra land. So there's a tactics used after the war to even starve more people. Those who survived the war, I can assure you, thousands and thousands died of this kwashiorkor, this dreaded, disease, because they had food, but they couldn't supply from Lagos because there was a stupid, belief that when you open up the airport in Ulu, which the Nigerian army captured, somehow it's a symbol of Biafra. And therefore, we're not going to use it. Yeah? And the last thing they did was all the missionaries who helped to stay behind, who were there at the end of the war, who were making sure Biafra received the food supply, they rounded them all up and locked them up, put them in prison. They had to pay a fine. But they accused them of prolonging the war. So when they finished with them, they sent them home and said they came in to work in Nigeria without a visa. These have been there for so many years before the war. So I can tell you by explaining all these, there was literally genocide before the war. This is genocide in Nigeria I'm talking about. There was genocide during the war. And even after the war, they made sure you carried on starving, killing more people than they were need to die who survived the war. So why did our people not immediately jump into bandwagon? Well, if they did, supposing one village, let's say Mba 20, Mba Nnamdi Simbe, they just call it Mba 20 on that particular place. Some people rose up and killed 1 or 2 Nigerian soldiers. What do you think will happen to Mba 20? It will be decimated. It will be completely leveled, and there'll be nobody outside to come and report it. They'll be wiped out. Okay, so you have to understand the pressure that people were under, having survived the war. They have to somehow make ends meet. So, and there was no coordination of how we're going to do armed resistance because the weapons flew in at Uli Airport. Where are you going to bring the weapons in at this stage to do your fighting? You say, well, we could have buried some of them because there was weapon everywhere in Biafra land after the war. We could have collected those and hid them, and some people probably did, but you need to coordinate it. So Ojukwu was out, and he did warn that if people have to be careful not to lead our people into more massacres. So this business about government in exile, Biafran government in exile, was not recognized. So you didn't have anyone outside who would speak for you. You didn't have anyone inside who would fight for you. So it's not surprising to me why it took so long. But what Biafrans knew to the war, they wrote on their walls, and everywhere you could care to see, Agaracha must return. Agaracha must come back. Because they said that Juku has gone on a journey, and they were so determined that he must come home. So that was the only hope they had. The Agaracha must return. And that's a coded message that until Ojukwu comes, we are still outside. So I can carry on talking to you about all these reasons. They not only disenfranchised us, they didn't want us to be part of Nigeria. Imagine you return back to Lagos and you're, say, lecturer grade, whatever. The people who you were above before the war are now above you. And imagine you trying to get back to your original post. Well, it's occupied now, so you have to suffer that indignity. If you try to open a shop, which they're now in a hurry to destroy and vandalize, you have one little hut. You bring your brother, you squat on that hut, that shed, to sell your wear. He sleeps in the morning, you sleep in the day. You're sharing one hut until you begin to expand. the class of 66 to 70 were extraordinary human beings, and they were really they wanted to destroy them spiritually, economically, and physically, but they survived. So the fact that it's taking so long for Biafra to resurface is because of Nigerian remaining, if they're having their own agenda, to continue to persecute them. Because no sooner after 1980, they started killing people again. So this is what triggered the need to return back to looking again why Biafrans are being killed. So I think I'm going to not hug the conversation. So those are some of the reasons I personally think might have attributed to why it took a long time for this agitation and the restoration struggle to resurface. And the last thing to mention is that the Biafrans have to know who to trust to lead them in this sort of restoration fight. And until Nnamdi Kanu surfaced, we didn't really have anyone we could fully trust, and so on. We did start with Wazirike, but then he let us down. Now Nnamdi Kanu had known all about it, so that's why we are where we are today, because it's taken a long time. Thank you very much for that.
There were Mazi. Honestly speaking, there's something you said now. You say it took a long time for Biafrans to trust somebody. For me, that word they say, it is not totally true, but anyhow. That is the way I put it. That's why it's not easy for Biafrans to trust a leader. You need to prove it. And that is what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has done, or what he did. So, our lines are now opened. Our direct line, as usual, is +1 213 328 6224. I repeat, +1 213 328 6224. Our WhatsApp and Signal line is +61 405 142 547. I repeat, +61 405 142 547. Once you call, please make sure to limit your questions to few minutes, maximum 2 minutes, so that we could take as much calls as possible, because people are lining up to call to ask mostly questions. Now I have a caller that has been there. A caller on direct line. Caller on direct line, please, can you hear me? Start by giving us your name, where you're calling from, and then your questions, if you may. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Dr. Jonathan. Thank you, our honorable guest lecturer, Dr. Ukachi Lloyd. My name remains Chukwuma Biafra. God knows Biafra from the beginning. Let me interpret it in English. Please permit me. I have 4 messages before I have a question. 4 messages to 4 people that were big players in the genocide visited on Biafra. And my question will center around Aburi Accord. It's just one question. My first message is to General Yakubu Gowon. In one of the last videos that he made after the war, he said, and I quote, that he never knew that Ojukwu took Aburi conference serious. That was the head of state, in which involved killing of Biafra. He said he never knew Ojukwu took it serious. So in other words, he didn't take it serious. He's listening, but I tell him one thing: the grave will reward him. The second message is to Obasanjo. To Obasanjo, today, this week, we are mourning the Biafran soldiers who were returning from Calabar, whom you ordered their summary execution. We also mourning the Udi massacre, where you went to Biafra land in Udi and leveled a whole community. They are 50 years, 100 years, I don't think they are going to recover from it. That is for you. And for Babangida, you're on the wheelchair. The grave will pay you. and we reward you and Obasanjo. Babangida had the longest transition period in history of that country called Nigeria, but he blew it up when he got two-party system that would have stabilized that British business center. But he was advised, so he blew it up and threw Abiola away, and Nigeria started all over again. Today they have more than 100 political parties. Babangida, under you, Delegiwa was murdered, just like Bola Ige was murdered under Obasanjo. The grave will reward you. Finally, on the kidnapper from Daura, the impostor, the pedophile, Buhari, this is a message for you. You were the best the North could offer, and we saw you, and you didn't disappoint yourself as a kidnapper of first generation. Those are my messages. My question now is, Aburi was a peace pathway to Nigerian crisis, and it failed. Was it a failure of the whole nation of Nigeria acting on ignorance or bankruptcy of Gowon leadership, or to the reason as a result of inferiority complex of Nigerians to 10 Downing Street that has continued to meddle and manipulate Nigerian pathway to peace? Thank you. That is my question.
There, Mazi. Dr. Ukachi, I think you had him.
For all those comments, and I respect all you've said and the depth of feeling which you had. The Aburi, going straight to your question, was it an inferiority complex? Okay. They said that Ojukwu, they accused Ojukwu, well, they always find a reason to accuse somebody. They accused Ojukwu of having what they call compulsive logic. Compulsive logic is that, look, this is A and this is B. If you put A and B together, you get a C. Okay, so let me unpack that. He had compulsive logic, and he came to Aburi to literally say to the rest of his colleagues, you were all there. My people are massacred. Yeah? Okay? And none of you did anything to stop it. How do you expect us now to live together? They accused him. Hassan said, if you want to stay out, you stay out. If you want to come in, you come in. If you listen to the transcripts of the Aburi Accord, he went there to explain to them that he wasn't pleased with them at all. They said, they will say, go on, we're talking about the Supreme Commander. They say, what Supreme who? Who's Supreme Commander? Go on. Since when? The Supreme Commander we know is Excelency and is missing. How can Gowon be the Supreme Commander? They didn't like that. So he then said that, so that is why he has his agenda. He brought the agenda which they discussed in Aburi. So they're saying if he was intellectual inferiority complex or whatever. Sure, he went to Oxford, but he used, one of the first few leaders I've seen who used this knowledge to defend his people without having to kill anybody in the conference table. Remember, they were all co-chairmen and all this conferee, all the people who came for that conference, they are all co-chairmen. They weren't one who's ahead the other. So the inferiority complex is their own portion. Ojukwu did not go there to have inferiority complex. He go there to discuss what was happening to his people. A minimum of 30,000 have been slaughtered. Thousands more were maimed, injured, eye gouged out, properties abandoned, everything. And you think we're going there to have picnic. Okay? So they must have misunderstood the seriousness of the situation. Number one, you killed all the Biafran soldiers in the army. You blew a bugle, everybody comes out for a parade. You point at Iba, you stabbed and killed them. Yeah? So, outside the eastern region, if you're in the army, you're not safe. So now how is it that you're the commander, supreme commander of the Nigerian army. So which army are we talking about? Is it the army of the Northerners or the army that is left, or what is left of the East? So you could say, look, the best way, because you can't expect an Igbo officer or soldier to be in the same camp, the same canteen, in the same trench as a Northern soldier, because this is January. They were being killed from July 29th until October, non-stop killing. So you're not safe. You now want me to come back, and we're now all one country, one people, let's clap hands and go on, you're the commander, general, or whatever you want to call yourself. So he said to them, the best way forward is that if I'm from the East, I stay in the East, in my own part of the world, and be a soldier in the East, controlling an area called Area Command, which I'm responsible for. So that way, I don't have to come to the North and get killed, or go to the West and get killed. That makes sense. That's compulsive logic. The second one was, so if you sort out the army, who is then going to be in charge of the country? Oh, Gawan says he's the supreme commander. No, sir. Igbo or the Ojukwu has to have a say and input on what happens to his people from now on. So therefore, we're going to have a supreme military council. Gawan is a member. In fact, he was asked to be the chairman of that Supreme Military Council. So Juku will be a member, Ejo will be another, Adebayo will be another, and then Hassan will be another. The four people from the four regions. They need to have a say whatever policy you're going to impose on the country. And go on, you're going to be the chairman. Oh, no. I can't be the tutelar head. I can't just rubber stamp whatever you guys decided. No, it's not what they decided. What they decided was that if you have any situation, you need to bring it to the table and we discuss it. You've got to show it to all the regions, and you're going to have their concurrence and the agreement. Otherwise, you impose your will on one region. And that is what caused the war, because they reneged on this important decision. So that Gowon says, from now on, the East are going to declare a state of emergency. I only take myself, the Northern, the Western, and so on. If they all agree, then Ojukwu, you have to lump and take it. Okay, so Ojukwu said, no, this is not going to work. On Aburi, we stand. So it's not a case of inferiority complex. It's the deliberate ploy to derail what would have worked. All right, so the next thing about Aburi, about complex, inferiority complex. Why is it that you cannot compensate those members who are working for the federal government? They're in the rail, telephone, whatever, the civil servants, for example. They haven't been paid since you chased them out of the north. How do you expect them to feed their family, take their children to school, and so on and so forth? That was decided that you should have a finance team look into how you're going to compensate them. If they found another job in the East, fine, you don't need to pay them. But if they haven't, you should pay them money. This was agreed. And then they turn around and say, oh, finance committee, we're no longer going to meet and talk about it. So you understand? So it's not a case of inferiority complex, it's a case of deliberate, obfuscation of what happened, what was discussed in Aburi. So much so is that, as Ojukwu said, is as though when they turn everything down, it's as though Gowon didn't turn up at the Aburi, because the minutes are different from what he's saying that was discussed. And that is why Ojukwu, that's why they may have misunderstood the seriousness of Aburi Accord, and they turned it into discord. And that's why Nigeria has not recovered since then. I don't know, my brother, if I've answered your question. I want to keep it short. So let's leave it as that for the time being. Thank you very much.
There were Mazi. Caller on, what's up? Welcome to the program. Can you hear me? Caller on WhatsApp, please.
Yes, I can hear you very clear, Mazi.
There were Mazi. Please go on.
Thank you very much. I greet you, Mazi Ukachi. This is Mazi Aganeku, calling from Italy. My question is, first of all, I want to do an announcement because I am working as a coordinator of Milano. Our 30th May, will hold in Milano, Italy this year. We want all IPOB that resided in Italy, all Biafrans, all Igbo, all Biafra, Eastern region, together in Milano on the 30th May, Milano Central train station, at the Apple side. That is where we'll gather to do our 30th May. After we'll go to our hall, where we will sit down and talk. I want IPOB, all IPOB to volunteer themselves to come that day to support what we are doing, because our commemoration is every year. And this is the head of what we are doing, because we are remembering our people that have been killed since the time immemorial, because slave trade killed our people. We never give them benefiting burial. Missionary kills our people, we never give them benefiting burials. Colonization kills so many of our people. Commercialization kills so many of our people. We have to give them benefiting burial. And this benefiting burial, we need support from everybody, because we will go to the whole world and we will use our palm leaf to go and make sure that we take their spirit back to home. We need to do it. We need to do it. We need every IPUB, every Biafrans, all those our brothers and sisters that scattered all over the world, like Jamaica, Haiti. We need our people up there to stand up to support what we are doing, because what we are doing is not ordinary. We want to make sure that we control our responsibilities. Nobody will help us. We know it from the time immemorial that nobody will help us. That's why we are telling our people that you don't need to follow anybody. We continue saying it. So, I thank you, Mazi. I thank you, Mazi Ukachi. And my question is, why we went to Aburi, first of all? Because for me, that Aburi, I don't know. Because it's not in the same value system with these people that is in our land today. I don't know why we go to Aburi. You understand? Because that Aburi is what caused all those problems. Because had it been we stand on our feet, send these people away, they will go. Aburi will go, they didn't come up, they didn't stand, because had they been they stand like today, they could have come up and say, yes, these people is like this. But where did you see them? So all this protocol we're going today is like we're going back to where we get wound more. So as we know what we are doing, we need to go buckle up. We need to buckle up. We know where we are going. We know where we are going. They disorganize our government system, the original system. Because if there is no original, fake can never be existed. So all those ones that is in our land is fake to us. And that is when enemy. Because enemy does not exist. And if Biafrans are doing their things, going on every day we do our things, nobody will be enemy. But when foreigner enter our land, we started getting enemy. So, we need to buckle well. Muhammadike has finished up what he comes to do. He has finished up. Anything happens to him, we know the people we hold responsible. We know them. And our land, they know already, they are running away from our land. None of them build anything in our land. Only what they are doing in our land is to suck us dry. We know them. So, we are telling all IPOB to buckle up. If you stand well, that know what we are doing, you know that Ogiso must restore back. Ogiso must restore back. Then, after Ogiso restore back, Ogiso will now tell us who is Idu? Who is Idu? Because Idu number is more story that
Mazi, I think you have asked your question.
So that people understand what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mazi Ukachi, I think you have what he said, although.
Thank you.
Go on, please.
Okay. For brevity, able coordinated Italy, Dewo, thank you for your hard work and continue encouraging our brothers in Italy. And you've all heard what he said, so support him with the 30th of May. Why we went to Aburi at all? Very important question. Remember, Ojukwu was under such pressure to declare Biafra immediately when all this killing started. And this famous interview I keep referring to, September 1970, he said if he knew what he knows now at the time of the interview, he would have declared Biafra. So my brother, you're probably right. He would have declared Biafra then. But the class 67 or 66 to 70, they know who they're up against. It's not just in Nigeria, it's what the world will say, what the United Nations will say, what everybody will say. And also, jaw is better than war, Winston Churchill once said. It's best to talk and avoid war at all costs than to rush head on and start fighting. Because once you declare this area is Biafra, they will invade you. And for security's sake, we didn't have any weapons to defend ourselves. When Juku was being encouraged to declare Biafra, like my brothers and sisters, look, we don't have any weapons. Okay? Everything is in the north. Ammunition factory in the north, Kaduna, where you train a Nigerian army in the north, artillery. Everything was stationed in the north because the British know that whoever controls the army controls the country. So we're outplayed. Our people say, Malay, army. Nambanza, Malay. In other words, they discourage our people from joining the army because it's not a job for somebody who is educated or who wants to get on in life. The Yorubas is even worse. About 800 of them were in the army because why would a Yoruba person be in Lagos, Ibadan, and so on, where they have free education? You go and join the army. So the army was only habited by those majority in the north. And they were denied Western education, so that when they send a bunch of people from the north to go to Canada to be trained as officers, the Canadians send them back and say, you guys need to go and do some more reading, you're not ready. So we had the Eastern people, when they joined the army, they were able to progress to the officers' cadre. So the issue, therefore, wasn't what should we do about Abu, because we have just got 200 officers wiped out. So the people who attacked us knew what they were doing. You can't go to war when in your own country you have 200 officers missing. Those who are your best trained warriors are no longer available to fight and defend the civilians and without any weapons. Little wonder how we survived in the first place. So why Abu was to buy time, I think, to make sure we've done everything humanly possible to prevent a war, because we are going to lose out. Once the war starts, it wasn't a case of winning the war, it was a case of preventing how many lives are going to be lost. So Juku said, the way you measure our success in the war is how many lives we saved at the end. Okay? It was more resisting the aggression, which Britain made sure these guys are armed to the teeth. Do you know how Nigerian military advanced? They use armored vehicles in front after periodic shelling. They saturate the area they're going to invade with artillery from long range. It's not you Abriba warriors. You grab your knife and whatever and go into the forest and start chopping people's head off. It's not the type of war. It was a war where at a long distance, 10 miles away, an artillery come and land on your head. You haven't the foggiest clue how to prepare it. And these people, they're traders, they're schools, but they're eager to defend themselves. So we did not have the weapons to fight this war. And when it did start, it was because of our scientists that were able to manufacture some weapons that actually allowed the war to even last for months before we got our bearings. So, my brother, there's a lot to discuss about Abui, but Abui was an attempt to prevent further slaughtering of our people and also make an environment, create an area of command where we'll be looked after. But they turned it down. The final legacy about Aburi is that if ever we go to another discussion into how we're going to cohabit or live together or have a relationship, I recommend, this is my own personal feeling, we need to make sure UN, AU, UK, US, RU, BRICS, all these people throughout the whole world must have a copy, must be involved in the decision making that the agreement we made is signed and sealed in front of them. So nobody on this planet will say, aha, we disagree with what we discussed and so on and so forth, because we don't have witnesses. Because even though Aburi was recorded, we didn't have the clout to publish it to the whole planet and say this is what was discussed, and Britain made sure they suppressed this important fact. So when we fought, our people fought because they knew their causes was right, and that is why we lasted so long. And as I said, it's not over until it's over. They wanted to wipe you out because they were still alive. It means there's hope still. Thank you very much.
There were Mazi. There were caller on WhatsApp. I don't know whether my signal. Please, people can also be calling on signal. I don't know. There is no problem with my signal as long as I can see. Caller on WhatsApp, please go on. You are welcome to the program. Can you hear me? Go on to your question. Oh, Mazi.
Okay, Mazi Lawrence Ukachi, also good evening. I want to appreciate you.
Mazi Justice Ukachi. Justice. There we go.
Okay. I'm Mazi Joseph. I may use it to our language.
Ganiru.
Mazi. Imara, I may be those who contribution and then we some questions I need the age. Number, I'm not no mistake our eternal leader. I'm not no mistake. So Mbehaga Bul ya also another journalist. Because of EMA Abu ya na enwe no oluwa na enwe journalist. Because of even the way Aburijiga, America na Ghana was planned. They use Ghana as a planned place. Because in the invite na the ship, according to the story, according to the history, our brother to here reject maybe have an alternative to Ghana. Because na high alternative to Ghana. After MHL the thing, Ujuku the African Union, Ewele grand plan before that meeting. All mistake our leader because I was saying when Mbandozo Nunga brand that thing. Go on make here now we discuss that. Then boss got here we hit whatever. No taste mayor or another thing. Another thing was on to the way to kill Nigeria, the way to systemize Nigeria, honorable Nigeria, America, Nigeria fellow. You don't try to make image in Nigeria. I didn't tell you, every sick, I said Ziki Grass School, one of the best in Africa. Why is there the way to structure Nigeria? You watch our Mazi, Professor Kuroka. Also, every military this thing was instituted in North, both the academy, both the every weapon was instituted in North. But Zeke, as a wise man or grass school, how do you know what are these things? Still, one Nigeria, not white. Our problem, our leaders, can you use Zeke as an example of what is happening? This our elders, also the same thing Zeke in the pattern. Okay. Online, when they put our leader, our internal leader, and people may have no to cause the war. An evil man, an elder, and these people, I want matter. anyị enweghị anyị ma anyị anụ mgbe e rụrụ the war but ihe ịdafuge and ihe ọchasị ihe mepere last 2 weeks ago na ndị ọhaneze chọrọ ịga gagharị biko ndị ọhaneze agaghị ihe biko some of them ewure 8 years some of them ewure 90 years ọha ama this history akọrọ here ọha ama the history ihe ji etige because of all these people problem anyị nwere ngwalin our leader our agent amamoro agent amakpọ ya agent ndị Nigeria Peter Obi onye ọbụla hụrụ ihe o mere ọ Peter Obi ọhụụ ihe mere na Biafra war ọwọhụ history ihe na-enwe m ihe nwụ na our elite ikwu ụka na our generation chọrọ ikwu ụka ha sịghị na enweghị anyị ma enweghị anyị gara skuul anyị anweghị ha ụha nwa garakwa skuul nwee elite ị na-ele ndị anya gị na-ajụ onwe gị ma isho na ndị gara skuul ka ndị ọjọọ so gaga gbajie chọọ ha gara skuul another thing ọzọ m chọrọ ikwu ịma mgbe ịkọga this story mgbe akọga this history history emere m research na-ahụ na ihe niile ekwuru na redio Biafra ihe niile ekwuru ehi ahụ ha niile ezighị ezi ọkwanye ọ nọ online ma aga na Wikipedia on my own research mgbe e mere cool on that Wikipedia on the start on the headlines ha sị mgbe ebugara ha sọrọ Igbo cool but ịga na the context ịga na ịgụmeze the history na-aga n'ihu gauze na the context n'onwe ya ababa kọọ exactly ihe our professor kọọ here otu ihe niile si mee but ka m kwuo because of enwe ndị na-anwụ ndị Igbo like enwe ndị na-amụ n'ala Igbo enwe ndị amụ na outside Igbo land ha dike na after this thing ha agaga check ime ha emepe Wikipedia hụ na Igbo kuu ha ga-akpụ ya kpụrụ Igbo kuu enwekwe ndị ozi na-anwụ ndị Igbo ha ga-asị na ndị Igbo cause this problem ndị Igbo cause ya iche ịjụ all these our historians all these our professors n'ala Igbo ihe ha megekwana ka ha change this system because ọnwụ ndị ọzọ ga-akọ ya akụkọ anyị ọnwa anyị ga-akọ akụkọ anyị ihe mere anyị wawo ndị ọzọ kpụgara anyị akụkọ anyị wa and ha enwecha something emere etinye nga na-anwụ true and ihe chọrọ iju anyị wawo this our generation and these people na-awụ elite na Igbo land ele mbọ ha gbaga ka eji change history ka eji change this thing ha dere online igo na online ha dere against Igbo people and also my last thing ka m hapụ ndị ọzọ okwu na this is ekwuru na ihe m chọrọ ele otu a si eme this history ka eruo everybody ntị because of this history ekwuru na anụra m history anyị but after this history I was so bad I cried ebere m akwa na ihe ndị nna nna anyị gabigere otu onwe ndị gwara anyị ya ka si eme this history ka ya ruo to everybody na Biafra land
Dewo nwa Chineke. Mazi Dr. Ukachi, before you go, just 1 second. There is one thing I want to add. The question he asked about our elite. I said it. I used to say it. Leadership is not only Ibaji Chok or Iga School. No, common sense they involved. Their ability, to have sound judgment. It's not easy to have a sound judgment, be analytical about what will happen maybe in the next 10, 20, 50 years. Using it now, you start making policies. It's not easy to have somebody like that. Because what I see in our land, we have people that claim they go to school, they are professionals in their field, honestly speaking, but without sound judgment. Because if Azikiwe, I continue saying it, if Nnamdi Azikiwe had a very sound judgment, he would understand that, look, a foreigner cannot come and create a country and for you to progress in a setting like Nigeria. It's impossible. Of which some people, what is his name, warned him. There are people that warned him that so, and he said, no, don't worry, because he wants to be in control of the good thing, that big Nigeria. Now, can they pagoda poor? Let the Europeans, let Britain come out. We know how to. We know how to manipulate them now. Don't worry. Trust me now. Nothing make onyibo. Well, that is small vision. That is small myopism. Oh, well, now what agara m na makwa ebe m gara na Harvard. Ịmakwa ihe anyị hụrụ there. Don't worry. Apụga ka ndị apụ. So that thing we always neglect. But that thing we neglect, we call mundane, is what haunts us in future. Mazi, please come in, please go on, Mazi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Leadership, as you said, is part of our problem, and they keep saying we're very easy. But it's the context in which it's said. In the context that when the English got there or the Europeans got there, they saw a village, and when there's an issue, they have they sound their gong, and everybody comes out and asks you who invited us to this meeting. Somebody said Queen Victoria wants us to pay tax. Then they will ask who's Queen Victoria, please call me. And if you can't explain it, then they will not listen. So the Igbo are meant to be stubborn. It's not that, but in the other part of the country, Queen Victoria said you want to collect tax. The emir who said tax everybody, and they obey. So you have if you like, a disparity between how we responded to authority. If there's a need for us, the village, to send somebody to represent them, that person is waited for on the ground that they are sending somebody to represent the whole village. And when that event finishes, that person just goes and sits down. We didn't have warrant chiefs because he was imposed on us. We didn't have anybody who's Igwe who was imposed on us. When you finish whatever you're representing us for, that sits there. So it's a group of people whose leadership is fractionated. There are very little, if you like, villages. You can't find somebody ruling 10 villages because he doesn't belong to our villages. So our system is very unique, and it was difficult for the Europeans to manage because they wanted, who's the head man? Who do we talk to? Who's the boss man here? That's how they act. But the Igbo was different. We are fractionated in the way we deal with that. Every village is autonomous. So we shouldn't knock that system. But when we encountered modernity, we had leaders like Azikiwe, and he was way ahead of everybody else because he was instructed at Boarding Powell College that in order to assist the development of Africans, you have to be seriously educated. There's no way around that. That's why Nnamdi Kanu is doing a great job for us, because you can't come and have half-heartedly in your knowledge at the problem. You've got to be rounded. You've got to understand how the system works. So, but when we become that famous, and someone like Mboni GK said, Zeke, the bigger, there's no road there. So he may disagree with him and say that it becomes an issue. But you are all right. How is it that our leader, who's supposed to be representing this particular corner of the country, we see every single major installations put in the north, and you keep quiet? Yeah, you get independence and then you reconfigure it? No, it's too late. Not only that, the northerners are being pampered by the British, and British are favoring them. Everything goes to them. And then you're not challenging that decision. That is where mistake number one, or really important mistakes, occurred. Because they thought they were building a country. But the other people were thinking, yeah, the country of building is an estate of our grandfather, our great-grandfather. So that was the mistake. They call it the mistake of 1914, where they amalgamated North and South. They were supposed to be different countries. So failure engineering was part and parcel of it. So let me park that somewhere and answer our brother Joseph, who obviously has thought seriously about their bully. He mentioned that there's a need we did not get a journalist to actually tell us how the bully went. Well, there were journalists, in the sense that the journalists said there was the Abu Akko was conducting a cordial environment. It was done in Ghana, and they decided, they quite rightly pointed out, Ojukwu said, look, we want our brother in Africa, OAU is called then, not AU, Organization of African Unity, should have a copy of this transcript of what we're discussing. So the rest of it come police. Say, no. This is a Nigeria. This is an internal. This is a brother's matter. This is Nigeria. We don't want anybody to, come and tell us how to manage our country. And to be fair to them, they arrived at some serious discussion. Some of it was heated, and they came to a conclusion of how this country should be put together. And journalists were, Ojukwu had his own secretary. They all had their own secretary. They were able to say exactly what went. But what went wrong, I think, part of what went wrong, is that Ankara, who was the Ghanaian general, who was their chairman, who was actually encouraging them to get together and do all this, I believe that he should have stepped in when Gowon was messing about. He should have said, raised the flag and said, look, you guys decided such and such and such and such. Gowon, why on earth are you changing, the minutes of the meeting? Yeah, because you know how strongly the East have been hurt. Yeah, he should have spoken up. He should have spoken, called it for what it is. You came to Ghana, you had this conference, and everybody was happy when you're going home. I personally, Ankara took both Ojukwu and Gowon, one on either side where he was sat in the car, the back seat, one on either side, and they said a short prayer and said yes, and so on. But then it started unraveling. Why didn't he intervene and say, look, Gowon, look, Ojukwu, I don't want you guys to start killing each other. Right? This is what he decided. If you want more time, come back to Ghana. Let's discuss it further. He didn't do that, and I don't know why. That is one thing I need to raise. The second one is that Nigeria is set up, as a brother Joseph said, as failure engineering. Failure engineering, you design something that is going to fail. Okay, that's why they cited the military in the north and everything in the north. So when they appears that what was his name? Excelency has taken over the mantle of leadership. So, it's not how we plan Nigeria. Oh, unity. No. That's now unity decree. No, it's not how we plan. We want the north to be separate from the south, so that we can carry manipulating them and getting them to be the safe pair of hands, which we really wanted, so they can look after our interests. That is how Nigeria was designed. So anybody who tried to unite it, Igbo coup. Because it will backfire if it was an Igbo coup, and then the country is going to suddenly move forward. But we all know it's not an Igbo coup, but it was the BBC who first labeled it an Igbo coup. Everybody else, you have evidence saying that we're getting rid of corruption. Country nepotism is dead. University students, Ibadan University, Lagos, they're all celebrating. And then suddenly, a bombshell drops, is an Igbo coup, and there's no evidence. So, we need to understand that the failure engineering was inbuilt, and Britain wasn't going to let go in a hurry. So, what mistakes then? Did they cite it in Ghana? Was that a mistake? I don't think so, because Ojukwu was invited to come to the British warship parked outside the shores of Nigeria. And the Jaja story, if you remember Jaja Kobo, he was asked to come to the boat to discuss, and when they got there, they arrested him and taken him to the West Indies. So Ojukwu wasn't about to make the same mistake, because he knows his history. So Ojukwu didn't go to the British warship to have this conference. They wanted neutral ground, which is Ghana, so the British can't come in and tell the brothers what they're supposed to do and manage their country. So that is the thing I want Brother Joseph to know. It wasn't the mistake going to Ghana. It could have been worse if they discussed it in the British, if you like, war vessel, which may be manipulated to favour Nigeria, but they spoke their mind in Ghana. So I think the site was okay in that sense. Regarding the apology which the Ohanese people were rushing to go and do, when those who killed us should be apologizing to us, they are rushing to go and do it. It's not because they don't know the history; they know the history more than you and I. What we must understand is that those of us who have been given the opportunity to read about this history, that is, particularly those outside who have access to 24/7 electricity, we should not sit on our laurels. We should pick up the books, examine the facts, go to the library, read the newspapers, find out what happened to our people. Because those on the other side are not going to tell you. You need to find out. And when you find out, then you discuss it. So when you have a meeting, your town hall meetings, there should be a passage. There should be an opportunity to raise the history. There should be a historian in each of the Igbo communities to explain to your generations what happened to our people. So not just, those walking into, blindly, what do you call it? Walking blindly into another trap. We need to understand what has happened to us so we can avoid a repetition. So that's why BEAD, Biafra Education Awareness Dissemination, has to take off and make sure we have accurate information, not the one you made up, not propaganda, facts of what happened to our people. And that needs to be disseminated so everybody gets a chance to understand the truth, particularly the next generation. So nobody's going to tell them it's an Igbo coup. The Igbo people are invaders and all that nonsense. We've got to have the facts available for a generation currently and the one to come. I also must say, our generation, the 66 to 70 generation, when you go through what they've gone through, I do blame them because they should have an obligation to explain to their families and to their children what happened to them, and not they come out of their shells and say, this is what I went through, so that their children will not make the same mistake. You have to do it. You don't keep it to yourself. And finally, if BEAD is allowed, they should have memorial for every village, every town, of what happened to us during the war. Then this nonsense about, I'm going to go and apologize will stop. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Mazi. And one thing I want to add also, Ankara, we should also know historically that he overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. And for me, I believe also that he is a British or a Western agent. So anything can or could have happened. Caller on signal, you have been here for 16 minutes, if I'm not wrong. Can you hear me? Caller on signal. Caller on signal. There we go. Please go on. Ganiru.
There. Mazi Ukachi, Professor Ukachi. Ndewo. Tuko kikabia ma dobere weteta. Kiwe wa
Mazi, I don't know the connectivity.
If I have your story that Biafrans never know. Master Jonathan, sorry, am I coming clear?
Go on, go.
No, you're not. You are not. Speaking to that device clearly, so we can understand what you're saying, then I can answer you. Please.
All right. I thank you, and I thank all Biafrans for the wonderful history you are giving us. I never know that these such things happen to us. Yes, I hear it, I see it in media, and I believe what you are saying. And ask, so all these things happen to us, and our elders that are claiming that they are one Nigeria.
Mazi, why is your output, Mazi, please? Your output is not steady. First of all, there's a squeaky noise.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, I don't know. Speak to the telephone direct, please. Can you hear me? No, I think he's gone. Caller on WhatsApp, please go on. Can you hear me? Caller on WhatsApp.
I can hear you, Professor Jonathan.
Mazi, there we.
Thank you for taking my call.
Biafrans is speaking to a brother Akbuzo, the scavenger. I'm calling from Africa Sud, Africa Sud in South Africa. I greet my leader. Can you hear me well?
Go on. Yes, go on.
I greet my leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, a prisoner of conscience, who set up this Radio Biafra, a citadel of knowledge and spirituality to educate us, and that is what you, Professor Jonathan, is doing. Thank you. I greet your guest in the studio, Dr. Lloyd Ukachi. I greet you, my brother. I greet you for what you are doing for Biafrans. Dr. Lloyd Ukachi, from your education through Radio Biafra, when you are being hosted by one of our brethren in Johannesburg here. I learned from you that the first shot was fired in Gakem. And Gakem is in Ogoja province of Biafra land. That means that it's not the people who caused the war. It's them who bring the war to kill us. And that is what I learned from you. Thank you, and I'm your fan. I keep on listening to you. Professor Ukachi, Dr. Ukachi, sorry. What I wanted to ask is, I wanted to hear from you exactly. Is it really the Biafrans who, is it so for me to say that the Biafrans love even the Nigeria than the Northern love Nigeria? It's like Biafrans love Nigeria more than the Northern. The reason why I'm saying it, I have my reason. Before even the war said that this Nigeria is his father's estate. And CQ was there. The educated Biafrans were there. They didn't counter it. I think you said that Biafrans will always be a sacrificial lamb for the Fulanis. And that is to compensate them for what they are doing. That is even before the war. All these things happened before the war. And the Northerners themselves, before the war, they said they don't want to be Nigeria, that they wanted their own separate state. They don't believe in Nigeria. It's the Biafrans. All the coup that wanted to destroy Nigeria is the Biafrans who stop it, even in the north and even in the south. So, Dr. You know, I used to say that to me, I used to see these people as prison waters. I don't know, I call them prison waters. I don't call them leaders. Because if you look at any time that Nigeria wanted to crumple, it's an evil man who will come to the middle and put himself on the line. If you check the last election, they even made it that the Northerners, the Fulanis, will be the president and the other following, which is the Yorubas, which means Igbo are not even supposed to. Then Igbo smuggle themselves through Lagos and put OP in the middle just to scuffle what we are fighting for. Is it safe to say, Mazi, what are we going to do to these ones who we call our elders, who keep on punishing us? Our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, came up and said, we know how to do these people, we know how to handle them. The elders, the people who say that their elders are called prison warders, come and scuffle it. They don't want to hear from our leader. They went ahead to proscribe us as a terrorist. They are the one teaching them English, telling them what to say. Doctor, please, can you help us? What do we do to these our elders for them to hear our pain? Somebody who is about 10 years to go, but he is now telling us that we have not seen anything. Yes, it's safe to say that these people are afraid. What makes them to be afraid to the death? Can you help us, doctor, to explain to them and beg them and tell us what we should do with these our elders? Do we still send them to exile at this age, at this their old age? What do we do again for them to know? The French that said they don't want to be in Nigeria, they don't believe in Nigeria, they wanted to go for a long time, and the Biafrans are still teaching themselves to them. They don't want to go. When we, the young ones, have seen what is happening to us, we are dying. in Mediterranean Sea. We are down everywhere to know if we can survive. The old ones say we must remain. That they have seen what you have not seen. Please, I beg to step here. Dr. County, please don't speak as an elder here. True. Don't speak and tell us what should we do to this elder. I know you are an elder. You have sympathy on the elders. But this is getting out of hand to us. Thank you for taking my call. That's I love you. IPS members are my blood. Bye.
There, Mazi. Dr. It's over to you, Dr. Ukachi.
Brother Scavenger, thank you for your comments. Yes, indeed, Gakem was the first opening shot in the war on the 6th of July 1967, 6767. Nigerians opened up with a barrage of artillery and then sent their infantry across what they call the police action. If that was a police action, then I don't know what a military action is. So the two-pronged attack. The Biafrans resisted that invasion, and that's why we are here today. They were able to withstand it. So you can read up on the actual battlefield. Alexander Madiba, who died last year, and his account of the actual war front, what happened. So you're right, Gaken was where everything started. Now, regarding our elders, or regarding the Fulanese or the Northerners, their party, interestingly, is Northern People's Congress. They don't really believe in that you are a Nigerian. So because for them it's the North first, Northern Nigeria first, before anybody else. A bit of apartheid, since you're in South Africa, you have the history of apartheid. So everyone who comes to the northern part of Nigeria was regarded as a foreigner. They rather employ an expat first before they give the job to an Igbo person. So expat first, then another Nigerian before an Igbo person is given the job. And then the derogatory remark that if you employ Igbo and put them in the work camp, they're going to emerge as the head man of that head camp. I got annoyed with that statement. We don't want to be the head man of the camp. We want to own the camp. So that's why they don't like us. Why would you want to be the head man of the labor camp when you can own the camp itself? Anyway, put that aside. Nigeria is a Lugadian cage. Lugard is Lord Lugard who joined North and South for economic convenience because Britain couldn't afford to administer the North as they wanted, but they wanted the money from the South to administer the North to make it economically viable. So you have a cage which Nnamdi Kanu calls a zoo. Yeah, so the zookeepers are the ones in trust to keep it as a zoo. But the Lugadian cage you and I find as Nigeria, you're now calling the elders as the zookeepers. Well, actually, they are not zookeepers, they're the assistant zookeepers. The zookeepers are up in the north. They have oil wells, they run the country, and they have their followers outside the country. They know exactly how to keep everybody down. So your elders, who you're constantly hammering, are actually not the zookeepers. They are, perhaps I'll label them assistant to the assistant zookeepers. Yeah, so they're nowhere near the seat of power. But we now need to ask them. Well, we can only change that mindset if the youth, since we are blaming the elders, the youth and those who are not elders need to really do what Nnamdi Kanu did. You need to go out there and research and find out as much as you can about what happened to our people. You need to really, really understand your history. So when an elder said to you, oh, you wouldn't understand. What I see sitting down, you will not see standing on an uruku tree. You say, sorry, man, or sorry, sir. What you're saying sitting down is wrong because our people are being killed. So you need to bring up the alternative to those phrases, what an elder we see sitting down. It's not you're disrespecting them, but if it's possible, they forgot most of the facts. So you have to hit them with information and say, this is what happened. They kicked us out Gakem. So if you come and tell me that we started the war, then you're wrong, because it's documented that they invaded us and we had to defend ourselves. You need to arm them. You need to give them facts. You can't just throw your arms when they tell you Ojukwu started the war, when you know he didn't. He defended, he tried to protect his people. So our job, as those who are not, who are not supporting the elders for whatever reason, their peculiar gains or whatever, you need to have a balanced and alternate version of what the facts are. You've got to have the information. I don't want you to go there and distort the facts that some people like me to do. I want you to go and research, find out what actually happened. Wherever you are, in their libraries, you can ask for data, information about Biafra. You see, people outside know more about it. That's what BEAD is supposed to be doing. BEAD, Biafra Education and Awareness Dissemination, is like the information about Biafra is scattered everywhere on the planet. Yeah, the whole world know about Biafra more than the youth and the elders put together. Britain at one stage boasted, say, we know more about Biafra than any other country. Britain during the war, because they understand the place and they want to make sure Biafra did not emerge for a reason best known to themselves. So I'm saying BEAD stands for Biafran Education Awareness Dissemination. So you've got to find that the information about Biafra is scattered all over the world. If they are like a bead, and that bead of knowledge, you're gathering them, you turn into a string of pearls. That is the pearls of wisdom, which you're going to need to emerge as a nation. You need the facts, you need information. So we're the information age. You can't go out there being ignorant. And someone asks you, tell me about Biafra. So, we had genocide. Yes. When? Let me see now. I can't remember the date. To tell me more about Biafra, you said you had genocide. How many people died? Oh, is it 200? Is it 7 million? Is it 10 to 20 million? Let's get the facts right, okay? And then we'll be able to confront our enemies, okay? So knowledge is power. Let's apply it. Thank you very much.
There were Mazi. Caller on signal. Mazi, hear me, please. Can you hear me? Please go on.
Good evening from here.
There were Mazi.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Ukachi, good evening from here. So my question goes this way. I want to understand from you, why is it that our people, despite of what they have seen with their eyes and other things, why in general, why do they devoid the ability to understand political structure, both local and international? That's number one. Then secondly, why do our professors, those in educational field and some area, maybe those that can speak, devoid to amend some ugly histories being tabled down by those I will consider as enemy or those who hate Igbos that write our history? Why do they devoid to correct all these problems? And secondly, why not to begin to make change to write our history for ourselves? Igbo languages and other things that's going on. Why are they lacking behind? Thank you very much, and God bless you.
There were Mazi.
Thank you, my brother. It's a very, very important thing you raised. I'm sorry I didn't get your name. You're asking why did our people not understand political structure? It's a very important question, because supposing we understand the political structure, supposing we know how to vote with one block as a people, okay? Supposing we're able to cast our votes so that we back one candidate. Supposing we want to change the rules of Nigerian politics and say from now on we vote for Mr. What is it? Mr. Isi one or Nagbalam number two, because nobody else is number one. It is a Nagbalam one. So supposing we pick somebody we feel we understand to help us understand the politics. Then you come to the House of Rep or the House of Senate. Let's say all the Igbo or the Biafran, what they call Southeast, South. You never know they're the North. It's always South. Suppose we put all the votes and you vote for one particular cause, yeah, in the House of Senate or Representative. The people who can change in voting, there are more in Kanu State alone than in your Southeast. So, my brother, politics is not the way we're going to survive this problem, because they have rigged it in such a way there are more legislators coming from one or two states in the north than in the whole Southeast put together. So how are you going to change any of the political, instructions? So we are hamstringed. That is why it's taking so long for you to mention it in Biafra, because they have rigged the election, they have rigged the politics, they have rigged everything about us, that you are designed not to emerge at all as a political force. Okay, so that is my take on it. So politics, unfortunately, you can vote until you're blue in the face, get your voting card, get this card, get that card. At the end of the day, you'll be rigged out. If you're not rigged out, even if you're voting genuinely, the other side have enough voting rights than you do. And when you look at elections, you look at the people lined up to vote. You have children carrying voting cards. Yeah, so you should know that politics is not going to work. The only politics, I think, the voting that is designed that will work and save the people is a referendum, where we say we're fed up with this system, we're going to stay or we're not going to stay. So that is why IPOB is talking about referendum as a solution. But most people think, oh, let's go and vote. Let's have the next election, I will vote for Mr. Y. I vote for Mrs. X. That would solve the problem. No, it wouldn't. I'm sorry to say. So politics, I'm glad people are beginning to understand it's not going to work for you, because it's rigged in such a way. Not only are the votes rigged, the actual instrumentation of it is so biased that it's not going to work for you. So you need to zeroize everything about the politics in Nigeria so that you have people proportionally represented. Not only that you have a proper census of election so that you know who's actually who. But before you can get to that, you just cancel everything and make sure you have a referendum. Do you want to stay Nigerian or do you want to stay outside Nigeria before we begin to do anything politically? We'll be here till the next 100 years trying to vote. It's not going to solve any problem. That is my own personal view. Then you talk about, to know our history and why do we need to avoid correcting issues. Yeah, so there's a need for all the professors and all the people who know the area who can speak. Could it be that if you are a head of let's say, history professor, and you come and publish something which you know is true, but the people who are going to vet it will lock you up in the next prison available and you disappear? Would you go ahead and do that? So the atmosphere for academic excellence and truth searching is not available. So whilst we blame our learned people, they've also got to survive in the environment they find themselves in. So the system is rotten to the core, so that even those who are in a position to make a difference cannot or will not without risking their lives and livelihoods. So you have to bear that in mind. Thank you.
There, Mazi. And what you said, let me also put this question forward so that you also say something about it. In as much as many of our, or most of our political elites are just, anti-Biafra, anti-people, anti-our people. We have people that served us regionally, like Sam Mbakwe, that try to use their initiatives to do something very good for our people. And we are seeing also one of the present governors, which we all know, that is trying under very hard circumstances. Now, what does it take other people? Why will you try to be a political leader of your people, even regionally, as a governor, a senator, without having the mind of sacrifice for our public interests? Whereas some others, no matter how few they are, they did it and they are doing it. It doesn't matter the situation they face, the hard situation or the threat to their life they face. Why others cannot do it, or most of others? Instead, they are anti-people. They are against our people. Like in Imo State, he has to, because of his political interests, if it is somebody reasonable, I used to say it here on Radio Biafra, even if the caliphate wants him to go there, he politely tell them that, look, oh no, this one is too much. From fourth position, just wait till another election. Let's see, but leave this one because I know it will cause chaos. But he didn't do it because he's hoping or looking forward to that post. So why also is it so? There are some few that are ready to sacrifice, even in the Nigeria setting, to do something. I don't know whether you can say a little bit before I take another caller.
Yes, Mazi, just a little bit. The leaders and the led, they go hand in hand, isn't it? If you go to, let's say, a country called what's the best way to describe it? Suppose you have a hypothetical country that's called Massaog. Yeah, Massaog. And that Massaog had an election. Somebody won the election. And then they voted, everybody voted, and the fourth person from that election is now made the leader or the winner of the election. All those Massaudians just keep quiet. Yeah? And then, surprise, surprise, things are not going well. Because the person who is now leader did not have a mandate of the people. And we clap for them, and this is from our village in Massadia. And therefore, it's our turn. So the led and the leaders is like, those who are being led are not saying anything or doing anything, and they expect everything to work out perfectly. Where on this planet do you have somebody who came forth in an election, becomes the leader of that particular election or the winner of that election, and everybody folds their arms? Yeah? And then you expect no consequences. So that is our problem. We like to vote. By all means, we go to an election, we vote. No regard to the consequences of who won and who didn't win. Until, if you must vote, then act on your mandate. And that is how Nigeria was wrecked, because in the West, they had wild West, because they said, we are not going to put up with Akintola fixing and rigging the election. Men became pregnant overnight. As a referral to people wearing a ballot and stuffing with ballot boxes. They go to ballots and stuff the page, and then say that your government wins election and they expect to have peace. So it was that wet year that causes the Nigerian to have a coup, because the Yorubas refused to abide by that nonsense. Yeah? And 50 years plus later, somebody wins when they're not supposed to win, and we fold their arms. So that's my own take on the matter. We want to vote, and we don't want to worry about the consequences of somebody trying to rob our mandate and do nothing about it. Thank you.
There, Mazi. Caller on WhatsApp, can you hear me? Please go on. Welcome to the program. Caller on WhatsApp.
There, Mazi Jonathan. Good evening to you from here. My name is Desmond, and I'm calling you from Italy. Mazi Dr. Ukachi, good evening to you from here also. I want to thank you for this series of lectures. Doc, you see, our people really passed through a lot, and it's very terrible. But you know, the thing is that the best way people can learn their history is through school, from elementary to university. And you can see that today Nigeria controls the educational system within that region, and we cannot get it because the ONUK report, some of us have tried to get it both on the net or it's not coming out. Though we saw some things, but then we needed something more that explain what really happened to our people, because from your history also it's very obvious that it's not even complete, because you talked about Kanu, Castina, and so on, but there are some other places in the north because it was a planned thing that we've not really gotten what happened to our people. I want to ask Mazi, you in one of your series you talked about how even Europeans in Nigeria then refuse to help our people. What I want to ask is, who informed the Europeans not to help our people? Is it the Nigerian government? Is it the Britain? Is it the international community? Having asked this question, then I want to now bring it to our leaders' situation today. Who is holding our leader today? And what do you think we have to do to get our leader released? Because it is obvious that the detention of our leader goes beyond Nigeria. And then you also talked about in your last Saturday's you also talked about where they try to attack some of our elites. Then the main elites, them like people like Chino Achebe in the west, in Yoruba land, trying to cite, they wanted to attack him to know if the pen is sharper than the sword. You know, I also want you to enlighten Biafrans. Is it not high time that Biafrans bring out their money to support ESN, because they always want to know if the pen is sharper than the sword? And Chino Achebe run away for his life, which means the sword is sharper than the pen, because if the pen is sharper than the sword, it would have stayed. So now, why can't our people bring out money to support ESN and for the land for us to be ready? That is another thing which you have to tell our people on that aspect also. Now, another thing is that there is this thing, Ojukwu, the Aburi Accord agreement, and Ojukwu came back and he was waiting for Gowon to announce what they agree. And that comes in question also. Our leader was here with us, working with DOS, and he went to Kenya and was kidnapped, and DOS was not aware. Who was he talking with? Whom did he trust, apart from the DOS? Because you see, if we continue, because here I don't think there is need for us to ask too much question. It's for us to see what happened to our people and learn from it. That's the only way we can be victorious this time. And I will also say that anything going on with our leader today, the DOS should be aware. And anybody meeting him, they should also be aware. Because so therefore they can be relating to Biafrans. Because you can see it's as if what happened in Aburi Accord is what happened in Kenya. In its own form, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that Mazi, it is high time we talk to our people rawly, as in we open it raw. Since our people don't want to know like raw. Because if you talk now, whom do we trust now? talking about the history and the experience that we've had. Are we going to trust the UN? Even though we need allies, yes, but who are we going to trust? If you're in a situation that you have nobody to trust, can't you trust yourself and then save yourself? Mazi, so you can talk to Biafrans on this. That is only what I want to input. Thank you very much. Ndo Jonathan. Chukabiyama bless you all.
There were Mazi Desmond Udodrege. Mazi, please, Dr. Ukachi, please, you go on. I think this will be the last. This is the last question. You go on and also make your summary. I mean, the pattern shot, please. Go on.
Yeah, Desmond, I think is your name from Italy, my brother. Thank you for raising all those salient points. Going back to where do I begin? Let's talk about what is it? Sword mightier than the pen. When the war broke out in Nigeria, the expats, the white people who were living in Nigeria, I believe it was in Lagos, they were arguing who's going to win this war. Is it the clever Igbos? They always call the Igbos clever. Or the Hausas, because by then everyone's seen as a Hausa versus Igbo. They don't know Fulani and the Brits ganged up. Anyway, so the phrase they were using is if you have a fight between the bullet and the brain, who's going to win? Well, for one moment, assuming that Biafra is supposed to be brain and the bullet was supposed to be any other person, but it's a hypothetical question. If you have a fight between the bullet and the brain, who will win? Well, so that's another question, isn't it? The brain will say to the person carrying the gun, "Hello, sir," or "Thank you, sir," "Please, sir," because the brain will find a way to survive. Okay, so because the person holding the bullet, when they pull the trigger, the brain is gone. Okay, and that's it. So the bullet can have more destructive effect to the brain than the brain can have on the bullet. So if you follow the argument. So the Biafrans, who are supposed to represent the brain, and the bullet supposed to represent their adversaries. The fact that Biafra is still alive today means that at the end of the day, you can say yes, sir, to the bullet, knowing that when you have your chance, as long as the brain is alive, you find a way to overcome the bullet in the end. But if you just go in and say, "Bullet, I dare you," the brain will blow to pieces. Okay, so there's a word in English used called subtlety. You got to find a way to survive. So for intents and purposes, I think we have survived. And as Chinua Achebe, thank goodness, he understood that although the pen is mightier than the sword, but you don't allow it to be tested in the circumstances he found himself in Lagos, away from his home. So that is the first thing to say about that. So regarding our people, we need to speak with one voice. How do we get Nnamdi out? Because I saw desperate voices, they were separate, everybody saying what they want to say, one doing pulling this way, they're pulling that way. The Biafrans have the most incredible power on this planet. And one day, when they speak one voice, the world will shake. I've been saying this. So, to get Nnamdi out, we need to come together and speak one voice. The Yorubas, as a contrast, they had gone through Operation Wetier. People left Yoruba land to go and camp in Dahomey, which used to be what Benin Republic used to be called. They actually left Yoruba land. They were pouring acid on you, pouring petrol and burning people. They had incredible conflict. But now, do one thing and they'll close ranks as in people. So one day, it is my hope, people of Igbo extract and Biafran extraction will speak one voice. When they do that, they start being, the pariah, the people they kick around in Nigeria, because you can't kick between 50 to 70 million people in a country and get away with it. That's what the enemy has been doing all the time. You're not united. It is the unity, yeah? It is the unity of our people that will make our generation to survive. You need to be united to make sure you've done everything humanly possible to release Nnamdi Kanu at the earliest possible time, in a practical date. And something we should take as a mandate. Both the elders, those who should know better, the politicians, the tradesmen, the scholars, they need to come together and say, because you've got one of ours, you must release him, or we have to do something we have to evolve a strategy that will make us register our displeasure of having one of us knocked up for 3 years now, and we're not doing anything about it. The DRS, they've been like incredible support, making sure IPOB is retained and kept us run with ESN doing its bit, okay? But the rest of us, the rest of, if you like, Biafrans, you can't understand what is going on and you fold your arms, because if they get away with it, then you find that if they get away with suppressing Nnamdi Kanu, then which of us is going to be free from suppression? None. So it is a rallying call. It's been there now for 3 years. There's a need for us to get our heads together, our acts together from every nook and cranny that make up the Biafra land. Okay? If you call a party, more people will turn up. Ask for assistance at ESN, people disappear. And then we wonder why they're holding us back. Imagine what would happen when we come together as a people, like they did, the class of 66 to 70. They were assaulted, tortured, maimed, killed, starved to death, but they held out for nearly 3 years. Without rioting, without accusing Ojukwu or the leadership or whatever, elders or whatever, they fought a war which is supposed to lose in 72 hours or 1 week. So that's the type of unity. They mobilized their talent. The scientists did their stuff. Even the women went and traded behind enemy lines. Okay, the women went into battle. So there's a Biafra woman who fought in the rural sector until she was shot. We need to understand our history, the type of people we are, know that we are nowhere near united. That is required to extricate us out of this current mess we find ourselves in. We've been 50 years planning to destroy you as a people. And we've not done enough to stem that flow of hatred. And it keeps flaring up. Since the war ended, they've killed thousands more. They've starved many more. They denied you your rights as a citizen of a country which they claim that you are a member of. They need to now work together to decide whether you're going to carry on being in Nigeria or have a referendum to get out. That's how people who are educated and sensible human beings behave in all over the world. And we need to understand that we have the opportunity and ability to do this. Okay, Nnamdi Kanu have shown it. His courage is without doubt one of the best we've seen since the war ended. And courage is contagious. We need to understand all this. ESN needs support. Let me explain why. During the war, as a child, I slept in the bush as the war was about to end. When we left our village, they were shelling, we were running from A to B. So the night where we were running it, I believe it was our mama at the time. The Nigerian army were chasing to try and get there before we did. Because it was dark, we went into the bush, into the forest. That's where we slept overnight. In the morning, we heard O Shibe, Nigerian Marine Commando. O Shibe, Nigerian Marine Commando. O Shibe, Nigerian Marine Commando. Normally, you hear, when they hear Nigerian Marine Commando, you hear the Biafran say, you say, well, come and die, because that's how bitter the war was. We didn't hear come and die. So the time we're going to enter, they've already got there, and they were also behind us. So you didn't need anybody to tell you that the situation is very dire. This would have been just before the war was surrendered. Why did I mention this? Because inside the bush we were safe. Okay? But now, after the war, every major city in Biafra land is occupied by one brigade of Nigerian army or the other. In Enugu, in Onahia, in Onitsha, in Owerri, they've all got their brigades there. So if there's any commotion, we run into the bush. And guess who wants to stay in your bush now? The herdsmen and the Fulani with their terror weapons. So your town is not safe. Your forest is not safe. And what do you think will happen if the war was to start again? Is the bullet going to be more than the brain? Or is the brain going to be more than the bullet? So the ESN is trying to clear the forest, the bush, which might afford us some protection. This is just my views. So therefore, there's a need to support them, because they need to clear the forest of those who have come to your land. They doesn't want to do commerce in the city or the villages, want to hide in your bushes. So they need to be ejected from their bushes. Because when you go to the north, you don't go and camp in the bushes. You buy houses, you build the houses, and you trade in the streets. And if you're one country, why is it that they should come and hide in their forests? When you go there to farm, they kill people, they rape people, they destroy people, they terrorize people. So why is that? So if you're able to support those who are not being paid, but volunteer their lives to look after what belongs to you, you really have no choice but to support them. Because if you don't, whatever it is you're trying to accumulate and amass will vaporize in one day. The UN is not going to come running in. The UK, well, forget it. Who do you think is going to come and rescue you? Okay? So, when you are ready to save yourselves, then you support ESN, you support IPOB, you speak with one voice. Because that's the only thing that will help us as an entity to survive, because genocide is what has been happening. Genocide Nigeriana is what's been happening. It's a type of genocide which is difficult to explain to people outside. Yeah? So I'm going to end by asking you to understand what genocide is. Yeah? So what is genocide? The word genocide was coined by somebody called Raphael Lemkin. He is a lawyer of Polish Jewish descent who was known for initiating the Genocide Convention. He coined the word genocide back in 1943-44. It's from a Greek word, genos, which means tribe, family, or race, and added it to Latin word cide, C-I-D-E, which means killing. So genocide is killing of a tribe, a race, or family, wiping them out. So the prevention and punishment of the crime of genocide was adopted by United Nations General Assembly on the 9th of December 1948. Resolution 260. and was entered as a force in January 12, 1951. Nigeria has committed genocide against us. Now, if you unite together, you ask them to explain why this happened. You are in the same country, but they turned against you and committed genocide. What is genocide? Well, Rwanda has experienced it, but nobody thinks Biafra had experienced it. Armenia has experienced it, so have the Jews. How do we classify in the Biafran context? Well, this usually is based on ethnic or religion or both. Well, the Easterners of Biafra, the majority of Ndibo, we stretch from Nsukka even beyond that to Opobo. Never mind being divided south, 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 south. We don't have north, north, north. The whole of Igbo land, the whole of Southeast, are people who are being persecuted. So what about symbolism? First of all, the people who have been picked have a dress code. They could have a tribal mark, the accent, the way they speak. They like trade, enterprise, education. So that is one of the symbolism. Are they discriminated on? For over 54 or so years, they have been discriminated. Dehumanized? Yes. Nigeria has an Igbo problem. I don't know why. They have this, if you like, primordial hatred for the Igbos. Okay? The Igbos live in a common settlement. When they went to the north, they were quarantined in Sabongaris. Okay? So, the dividing the country along ethnic and religious lines is a very major agenda which the current, if you like, when the last government came, we need to make sure those who voted for him are looked after. So you're polarizing the people. So, in a way, to carry out genocide, you have to be political, economic, and militarily. All those fronts were being assaulted, both politically, economically, and militarily. Are we being persecuted? Yes. The word they're trying to use, marginalization. Oh, everyone is marginalized, but not to the extent as the Igbos are. There was an attempted extermination in '66, pogrom in the north, which followed by full-scale war, in which we were outgunned. And they have carried on denying genocide. In some places, everybody knows it has happened. There's this denial that gets to me. Yeah? They don't want to tell the truth, they cover it up. Where the world powers like Britain, even Russia, they have been silent due to their complicity, they were involved. They renamed the map of Biafra, Bight of Biafra, they changed it as cartographic vandalism. They removed your name from the map, which has been there even before Nigeria was coined. No history of Biafra is taught in school. It's up to us now to research the history and make sure our generation and the future generation knows about Biafra. There's non-stop insistent arrest of anyone with Biafra. How many road maps, road blocks do you have in Biafra land, for God's sake? What's that about? Okay? So, there's a lot I can say to you about what's happening to our people. We can bury our heads in the sand, we can pretend it's not happening to us, but the longer we leave it, the more the problem is going to be for us to surmount. This current generation, I'm urging you to please, please, please understand your history and challenge the status quo. Make sure the next generation don't have to carry all this struggle. Let it end with us and restore Biafra for them. For I told you when Biafra was declared, you guys don't know what freedom sounds like or feels like. There's a tremendous outburst of joy when you hear you're now your own country. There's nothing quite like it. Yeah, I think it's a national anthem which tries its best to try and clarify what we are hoping to achieve. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I can't carry on all day. So now, Jonathan, I thank you for the privilege of allowing me to come to Radio Biafra. What I do know is that our people, they have been through a lot, but yet they have blossomed. They have bloomed in spite of all they've gone through. And as I said in our national anthem, the waving standard which emboldens the free shall one day, not only one day, shall always be our flag of liberty. Biafra will survive because of the people that fought for it, and were told that yes, before I came, I'm told that Biafrans were like heroes, but now that I've come, I know that heroes fight like Biafrans. So let's remember them on the 30th of May because of the incredible sacrifice these secondary school pupils meant for us and paid the ultimate sacrifice. So there's a lot for us to learn, and let's not let them down. I thank you, Mazi Jonathan, for listening.
There were Mazi, and remain blessed. We must continue. Everybody must be contributing his or her own quota into this struggle. Biafrans and lovers of freedom. This is where we end this bid series this year. You remember, I think last 2 years, I also hosted them on this hallowed platform. So we must continue. There is a question Mazi Desmond asked about our leader. He's going to Kenya. Why didn't he trust? Nobody knew among the leadership, the DOS, what was he doing there, all those kind of things. So, my brother, I believe it is not for Dr. Ukachi to answer that question, neither any other person. It is for our leader. He will answer it anyway, because we are Biafrans. As Dr. Ukachi have been saying about us, Biafrans, we are inquisitive, and rightly so, because it is our culture, it's part of us. So it is when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu comes out that I know now we shall ask him this question, and he is in the right position to answer them, and rightly so, because people have died and continue dying due to his kidnapping. It is a reality. It is not something that is being made up. No. So, nonetheless, we must continue. We must learn from our history. I said this the other time. In cars, people that put rear view mirror, side glasses, they are not stupid. Because as long as you're driving, while you are driving, for you to move safely to your destination, you must be watching your back. It's very, very important. You must be watching your back. And that is what we are doing. If you don't know your past, you will not even understand where you are going. The problem with us, as I see, is that we were condemned or sentenced into trading, which is the last thing. They push us into the dustbin, for your information, immediately after the war. They they wanted to make our land uninhabitable. No development. That is why, even it is, I know it is our, our Chuku that pushed them. That they didn't come to buy our land. They made it as a policy not to buy our land, not to purchase any part of Biafra land, neither to build anything that belongs to them. Otherwise, our land would have gone. I know that is a mistake that they are also regretting. But I know it is not something ordinary. You understand? Otherwise, that time, could have sold. People would have sold their land for anything, and by now it would be regretted. But they entered into a policy of making our land unlivable, sidelining it for development. They don't care, don't do anything there, and they push us into the dustbin, I should say, of trading. The last thing a person can do, because everybody can do it. Once you are broke, you are poor, you be there, tomatoes on the table. It's the commonest thing. That is trading. They push us there, sentence us there, say na and be destroyed forever. Little did they know that from there also we rose up and become the pillar. Okay. We manage ourselves, entered into boy. Do you see how solidarity works? This boy is going down in our land. This is what helped us. Boy. Now that dustbin they push us into, the caliphate push us into that. They were watching us to shrink and die natural, very painful natural death as a people. But from there we started rising. From trading, started rising. And now we are in charge. Developing everywhere. With little or nothing they give to us. Little, nothing. Because when you hear 20 pounds given to our people, how many of our people had bank account at that time? How many? Just if you go and research the percentage, very little. If you have account in the bank at that time, 1960s, is when you will be given, even if you have 1 million pounds, they give you 20 pounds. Majority of our people didn't have bank account. So virtually we receive nothing. But from the dustbin we rose up. Do you see it? And they follow us to that place. They follow us to the dustbin, because they were surprised that these people from dustbin they have risen up. People that were sentenced into extermination. Do you see the Lagos what do you call it? Lagos Calabar so-called highway, which was being engaged. I think 700 kilometers. Today they are saying that they are no more going to continue. Do you see Nigeria for you? Do you know why? Their target is to destroy that our brothers beach resorts. Billions of naira worth of investment. They destroyed it, and now they say no, there is fiber optics that pass. We are no more going to embark on that road. Otherwise we destroy internet. So they didn't know all these things before starting. Their target is to destroy Igbo man. Nothing more. Mazi Ukachi said it. He said the problem of Nigeria is Igbo. Sickness of Nigeria is Igbo man. Nothing more. They have tactically destroyed that. That is investment. And now they say, no, we are no more going to continue. And do you know what? They use a Biafran to destroy a Biafran. They use Igbo man to destroy Igbo man. Dave Omahi they use as Minister of Work. Tomorrow when they talk, they will say, no, is it not your brother that did it? No, be also. Not your brother. As they are using a week in Abuja. The same thing. They say, no, be your brother that in the do all this is. Now, your brother will not be we. That is how they behave. You understand me? So, it is high time we become wiser. As our eternal leader declared that had it been he knew what he know now, that time before he died, he would have declared Biafra earlier. So that thing he didn't know is what we know now. Now we are wiser now. So why should we be making the same mistake? Now Zoahia. Just now Zoahia. Aputa early in the morning. Aputa no shudi. Erigodu mama put. The worst thing you can do to people is sentencing them to Zoahia. Ile character Zoahia. You see, ye tombera here no ya na shop na manjak. Aga magide njakre customer be just to pacify customer and get something from him. Nothing more. Pacification. I'ma change when they go Zoahia that day. We again na amaba na bia palo. Ango chata move olaga na gwora. The following day was Sunday, go church service. Ganye testimony to Jesus recovery for the whole week. We are in a piteous situation. It's better we know it. What happened to us? Our people never learned. Our people never learn from our past history. It's only useless. Dumb people don't learn from history. Do you see why Israel is so brutal? They know their history. They know that any slightest error, they go back to the status quo. It will be worse. So that is why they are brutal. I'm just giving it as an illustration. I'm not supporting them. I'm not supporting nobody. But I'm just giving it as an illustration. Do you understand me? So, but we ourselves, we are the people that love Nigeria. We are more Nigerians than Nigeria itself. Peter Obi will come and fix Nigeria. Always, they will scatter everything and carry it to put in the. He will go there and bring the problem for Igbo people also. That imagine that is Peter Obi.